You are watching Kink Live in the Bing Lounge with Justin Towns Earle.
Justin Towns Earle, everybody, with the song My Baby Drives on the brand new record, Single Mothers. Thanks so much for joining us in the Bing Lounge.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So speaking of driving, I was checking out your Twitter feed at Justin T. Earle. And a couple of weeks ago, you were back east, you were between Pennsylvania and Virginia, and you tweeted, yeah, where the hell are we? You were pretty much in my home area, probably around in the West Virginia area. So
most likely, yeah. Around Lone Pine or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So now you're actually here on the West Coast. And there's something about, I don't know, I guess I found myself in listening to the record, and it might just be all in my head. East Coast, West Coast. There's some kind of vibe there to me to where, I don't know, you help me out. Is there?
There is. There's a transition in I think it's just can plain and simply be described as growing up. But I felt a serious sense to, seek something else. As a Southeasterner, I grew up not very fond of the West Coast, except for the Northwest. I've always loved it up around here, and have considered moving here several times. But it was definitely. It was a lot. I spent a lot of time in Park City, Utah, and just kind of driving around that area. My wife knows the area really well because she grew up in Park City, so it was incredible. Just going all these places that people like John Muir, set those paths and set those courses, and so that makes it something way more special than most people take the time to realize these days.
So if we're sort of talking about growing up, you're on your 6th album. It's your first for Vagrant. And
Yes.
I think this is what's fun about music, is we can put our feelings onto it. Whether or not you agree with it is
Absolutely.
I might be completely wrong. But there's something about, I think, your dad's famous guy, Steve Earle. I can't help but see almost a comparison with something like Hank 3, who's someone who looks at their dad and goes, I don't know that I want to do that. And you kind of turn in a different direction. Is that maybe something with our generation?
Oh, I think it's happened in every generation. I think the jump that we take has definitely gotten wider. I mean, young kids like Mark Zuckerberg creating billion-dollar industries while they're still in their freshman year of college and things like that, which is a form of rebellion. It's saying, basically, up yours, Dad, I'll show you. I'll show you right now. And that's I think that's a struggle that will always take place. But I definitely I had no intention of being a musician and did not want to until I was about 12 years old. I always loved music, and I'd always written short stories and poetry. But I realized that the jump to songwriting was a much different kind of songwriting. It took me a much different type of writing. You're going from having tons of space to explain what you want to, whatever lines you want to, and then you go to writing something that I think should be similar to a thesis, having a hard beginning, a hard end, and a hard middle, and it only uses the bare essential information that you can put into it, because like you were saying, you have to, the things that I've done to cover the way that I feel in my life, they say that 1% of the population lives like that. So not many people can relate to the way that I created and solved my issues. But what they can relate to is sadness and happiness and searching for something that they're through their life. And so I try to do that, put the bare essential information in there, where if you have a woman who's got red lipstick and black hair, that's plenty of information, and let the people that are in love with a woman with black hair and red lipstick insert their face in there, insert the attitude in there that they want to. And so you basically just lead them into thoughts, let them kind of take it where they want to, so they can have their own impression of it. That's what art is. Everybody will see it differently, but hopefully you have a group of people that find random beauty in it.
I think so. I think I found some. Listening to the record a couple times, it struck me actually how short it is. It's just under a half hour, and I feel like it's, again, maybe a part of your process getting rid of the things in your life that weren't working, and that it's drilled down to, just as you said, the sort of the bare essentials.
Yeah. It's all my records have actually been under 40 minutes, every single one of them, because when I was number one, I looked at Tom Petty. Really has not written too many songs over 2 minutes and 50 seconds. If you go through his records, and people don't have attention span like they used to, and they can't. They can't. Like, you can't put out a record like Redheaded Stranger anymore. Think about the last time that a good double record came out that you would listen to straight through. Yeah. Not many at all. Which was the intention for this record, to be a double record, because I have another one coming out in January, which is a sequel to that, basically, and they're both under 30 minutes because that's a commute to work. It's the average commute to work. I looked that up. And so people can, in their commute to work, listen to my entire record. It does not take a PhD to understand it, and you can listen to it however you want, but you can listen to it in your average commute to work.
So, as we mentioned, this is your first record on Vagrant. You're now in company of folks like PJ Harvey and Placebo and Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, all bands I love, which I think I love the just going up and up and up and up. So as you're driving around on the road there, do you have any do you do any Netflixing? Do you have any new records that are your favorites? What keeps you occupied going between cities?
Well, my wife occupies me well. I mean, in a very good way. I mean, I absolutely adore the woman, and so it is great having her out here. But as far as like music and stuff like that, I'm really hard on songwriters, and it kind of has to have, in very few exceptions, it has to have the whole thing, melody, lyrics that make sense and leave an impression. The skill of the musicians is also very important. But as far as songwriters these days that I love to listen to, John McCauley from Deer Tick is absolutely one of the best songwriters around right now. And it is wrapped in this kind of grunge rock influenced kind of sound. But if you listen to his records, it's completely different than what's really represented live. And he just has the boy can sing, he does have a gravelly voice, but he can actually sing really. He sings great, but with the gravelly voice, but he can clean his voice up too and go to places that you would never expect. But I think he's genuinely talented and a songwriter that will be remembered with his generation for sure, because he explains that very well. I think he's kind of a second chance at Kurt Cobain.
Oh, wow. All right, man. We're so glad you're here with us in the Bing Lounge. Single Mothers is the name of the new album. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Townes Earle.